This episode is brought to you by the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. Learn more at slashandcast.net.
Hello and welcome to the Conjecturing a Horrors podcast. With me is Laura.
Hello.
And Greg.
Hey.
And I'm your host, Rob. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Pretty good, Rob.
Doing good. Yeah, we have to say right off the bat here, we had a new, I don't know if you call it a drop, but a new little intro that we got the other day now that we got to talk about. And that's the fact that, it's from our podcast network we joined. It's just something that came about out of nowhere. We kind of just been podding along here and, having fun and doing stuff. And somebody reached out to us and said that, we might be a good fit for their network. This is called the Slash and Cast Podcast Network. They have a lot of shows that are very, horror themed, sci-fi themed, stuff like that. So we checked it out and we thought we would be a good fit for the network. And so we jumped on board. So yeah, we're officially part of the Slash and Cast Podcast Network, which is pretty cool. It's pretty exciting. How do you feel about being on a network, Greg?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, sometimes when you just do things by yourself, it's totally cool and fun. But we kind of live in a world where unless you have any kind of exposure through social media or just media networks in general, you can wind up on an island, sort of separate from everyone else. So it's a cool way to get inserted into a community and share content and collaborate and also have fun with people who are doing and producing similar content as us. Super exciting.
Well said, Greg. Well said. What about you, Laura? How do you feel about being on a network?
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped. And even just selfishly, some of these other podcasts that are on there, I haven't had the opportunity quite yet to tune into some of them, but they seem awesome and they seem like right up our alley of what we would just want to listen to, in our spare time. And I just think we're such a good fit with some of these. And yeah, I just can't wait to just kind of join forces with them and see where it takes us,
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I kind of checked out a couple of the other shows on the network. I listened to a couple, all really, really good. Like I said, a lot of the similar content, but just so many different voices. And I think that was the one thing that the people that reached out to us to join the network said is just we have a distinct voice. And which I think is so cool. And that just kind of goes to the same thing with horror we keep talking about. It's how it's so subjective. And so it's the same thing with podcasts. You can have a podcast about the same exact subject matter, but just different people, different perspectives, different lives that they've lived. And it makes it such a big difference, so that's pretty cool. I did want to not shout out a couple of them, but, I said, there's horror, there's sci-fi, there's paranormal, there's video games, there's a wrestling one on there, which I thought is pretty cool. There's also one, Laura might enjoy this. There's a monster erotica podcast on the network. And that one I actually literally put in the notes because I wanted to shout it out. So it's called Eroticosaurus. And that one,
God.
Yeah. So I was that's so, yeah, there's just so many different things on this network that are really cool. Yeah. So if anybody wants to check it out, you can check it out at, slashandcast.net. That's pretty much where they list all the podcasts that are there. Then of course from there you can go to the links and download, whatever you're listening on. But yeah, so that's pretty cool for us, for everybody involved. And, hopefully the listeners, enjoy that we're on a network now, a lot more exposure. So if anybody's listening that hasn't listened to us before, just a quick little overview, we pretty much do movie reviews. We're three friends that started this, based on arguing with each other a lot about, opinions. And I kind of spawned into let's just record this and let's have fun, breaking down movies, and kind of just seeing, how we all feel about it, and me being the, I guess, quote unquote, non-horror person, somebody that really didn't watch a lot of horror movies growing up, kind of the scaredy cat. I think I've grown a little bit over the past 6 months. I think I'm not as scared as I used to be. I've definitely faced some fears watching some scary movies that's traumatized me as a child. But yeah, so it's been a fun ride and I'm excited to see kind of where we go from here,
Yeah.
So let's get going here. You know, one of the first things we do is we talk about, you know, what we're drinking. We always drink on usually every episode. So we got a drop here. Let's see what's going on.
What's in the cups?
All right, so let's see what we're drinking tonight. What's in the cups? So what are you drinking, Greg?
I feel like viewers are gonna have to go to like episode 2 to understand that drop. So I'm drinking Delirium Tremens. It's one of my favorite Belgian beers.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting fact: the term actually means a severe mental state of confusion, hallucinations, nightmares, and disorientation. So I thought that was very fitting for this movie.
Very true. Very true. Yes. What about you, Laura? What are you drinking tonight? What's in your cup?
First of all, have you guys ever heard of the actual space term Event Horizon?
Sure. I don't want to sound dumb.
No.
Yeah.
No, you're like me. I didn't know that was an actual space term.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to tell you guys what the definition of Event Horizon is. And this is explained by the Swinburne University. It is a boundary defining the region of space around a black hole from which nothing, not even light, can escape. And I mean, obviously, if you've seen this movie, you know that a black hole does play a decent part of it. So I couldn't get over that. I wanted to find a cocktail that had something to do with the black hole. And I actually did find a cocktail that exists, and it is called Black Hole Sun. And it's basically an old fashioned mixed with cold brew.
Oh, wow.
Now, that's not something I can sip on because I don't really like whiskey that much. So I made it into a shot. And wish me luck because it smells awful. Cheers, guys.
Good luck, Laura. Okay. There she goes. She shot it. She got shot into space. Yeah, good job, Laura. Good job. Enjoy
Thanks.
that. Enjoy that shot. Yeah. I'm just drinking in honor of somewhat of this movie, you know, and also kind of like similar to what I'm wearing. We'll get to what you guys have on. I actually have like one of my Shining shirt on from, you know, The Shining, because there's so many references to The Shining in this movie. It's crazy. So I'm drinking just some Jack Daniels, you know, shout out to, you know, Jack Torrance.
Nice.
Oh, and I forgot I'll do my other costume reveal, you know, a little bit after you guys go talk about yours. So Laura, what are you wearing tonight?
I have decided to dress up as Lieutenant Stark. She is I think she's like the communications, I don't know, or like executive officer of the ship, of the Lewis and Clark. I liked her character because, well, we'll get into it, but she doesn't really get affected much. And so there's a scene where they're kind of trucking along where she's in this blue hat and it's got the logo of their ship, the Lewis and Clark. And so I was able to find a sticker of the logo and I just put it on a hat. And I've got my little green jacket, which looks like they're, you know, greenish brown jumpsuits, whatever color they were. So that's me tonight. Lieutenant Stark.
Perfect.
It looks really good. And Laura, we got our Zoom backgrounds too. Laura's Zoom background is pretty much all the people in the little pods, the little stasis pods.
Mm-hmm.
So she looks like she's sitting there just kind of like potting from the Event Horizon while everybody's in stasis. So that's cool. What about you, Greg? What are you wearing?
I decided to take the identity of Mr. One-Liner, Mr. Rocket Man, Cooper. He's the rescue tech. He's pretty much the guy that's out in space the most, trying to repair the ship. So he's inside the spacesuit for most of the movie. So that's me. I do my best. I got my white windbreaker, kind of pulled it up, strapped another cap underneath, and I'm an astronaut.
Nice.
Okay, that's you are an astronaut. Okay, yeah. I was wondering what you were. You know, but
it's not like I carry an astronaut, actual suit in my closet. So I mean, I used to, but.
Yeah. I couldn't really tell. But did you think astronaut, Laura, when you saw him?
I eventually did because I was racking my brain what he could be. And there really aren't a whole lot of options to dress up for in this movie. So I eventually was like, okay, I think he's an astronaut.
Wow. Good job, Greg. Good job.
So,
what do you?
That's me, Cooper. You guys are hanging with Mr. Cooper today.
Okay, cool. And I can reveal my final little outfit here. Definitely the theme in this movie is hell. So I wanted to do something maybe to bring a little bit of light. So here you go. I got a little halo. Got Got a little Zoom halo on my head.
That's adorable.
Wow.
So I got a little Zoom halo. Zoom allows you to have these little almost like filters, I guess.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I know. I gotta bring a little bit, little light to this episode. It's very
There
dark.
you
I didn't even know that was
You know?
a thing. That's so terrific.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So you guys can just stare at my little halo through the whole episode now. All right, so let's get to a little bit of updates now, a little stuff like that we're gonna talk about real quickly. I don't think we got any listener comments, questions, anything like that from nowhere. We didn't get any emails this week. We definitely didn't hear anything from last week about Return to Oz. Nobody's read that book yet and emailed us to tell us how right or wrong we were about where we broke that movie down. But I did want to talk a little bit with Laura about some of the Scream 5 updates, the cast updates that have been going on these past couple of weeks, So I know Laura has a docket prepared of all the new people that have been signed on. Laura, do you kind of want to run through them?
Yes. Well, we've got our triple threat back: Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Nev Campbell. So that is super exciting. We also have Marley Shelton returning. She was from Scream 4. She was Dewey's little deputy groupie. You guys have both seen Scream 4,
Yeah, weren't they together though? Or no?
It was questionable. And then we have a lot of new confirmed people. So I'll go through those. We've got Melissa Barrera. She's 30, and she is from a hit series on Starz called Vita. We've got Jenna Ortega, 17, and she was on the second season of the popular Netflix show You.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that. I don't know if you guys did. It's very good. We've also got Jack Quaid. He's 28. He is the son of Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan, and you may remember him from Hunger Games. And he is also on a hit Amazon Prime show called The Boys, which I know that Rob's been watching.
Yeah, he's really good. He's really good on that.
Nice. Also on the list is Dylan Minnette, my fave. He's 23. We all know him from watching Don't Breathe, which we reviewed way back in episode 6. He also was the lead on 13 Reasons Why, another Netflix show. I always get him confused with Logan Lerman, and I think that you guys do too, because we always call him Percy Jackson, and he's not Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But he's what, Maze Runner? Is he Maze Runner? Or one's Maze Runner, one's not Maze Runner, right?
Neither of them are Maze Runner.
Oh my God, who's the Maze Runner kid?
Some random kid. I don't know.
Are you sure?
There's a triplet.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, there's not a triplet. Anyway, moving on. So we've got Kyle Gallner, 33, and he's been in a lot of things. He was in Outsiders, Veronica Mars, but I remember him actually. He had a small role in Jennifer's Body, which I'm sure we will review eventually on this podcast. And we've also got Mikey Madison, 21. Did you guys ever see Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Mm-hmm.
So she's actually Sadie, one of the Manson girls, the one who actually goes in the house. So you know what I'm getting at here.
Wow. Mm-hmm. They probably saw her in that scene and they're like, oh, you should come to our movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be fun to watch. We've got Mason Gooding. He's 23, the son of Cuba Gooding Jr. And he was one of the love interests in Booksmart, which is actually one of my personal favorite non-horror movies. And then the last one is Jasmine Savoy Brown. She's 26. And she was most notoriously was on the show The Leftovers.
Wow.
It's a giant cast.
It is.
Are we
It's a
thinking
good
they're
cast.
all going to die? Is that the prevailing thought?
Well, the reason I asked Laura for ages is because with all these young kids, one of my first thoughts was, is there any way any of these kids could be the children of the original cast? I was trying to match up ages with the ages of the original cast and the time frame that's been in the gap and and stuff like that. Just wondering if anything would match up to, like I said, one of the girls is 17 and, one of the younger boys is like 20 something. I mean, I know they can always play younger, of course, I mean, the original cast, when they started, they were supposed to be in high school, right? And they were probably in their 30s. So
yeah, but remember the second one is set with Sydney in college with her college friends. So for me, seeing a list of actors ranging between 17 and 33, I think I saw. This could very well be at a college. It could be, which would be kind of cool because, Scream 1 was high school, Scream 2 was college, and then Scream 3 was kind of everyone after. There wasn't a university or a school involved. It was actually a bunch of actors in Hollywood. that were making one of the stab movies who get, victimized. And then Scream 4, I don't want to give it away, but we kind of go back to high school. So I don't know. Maybe this one will be back to a college.
Yeah, because I mean, to me, like the only people that it might work would be, of course, Courtney Cox and Arquette, their characters, right?
Yeah, I don't think that works with anyone else. And to be completely honest with you, they've kind of overdone that.
Yeah.
There have been family members coming back in one way, shape, or form in every single movie. So actually, maybe because they keep doing that, but I almost would see it as like, okay, I mean, can we find another connection that's not like a family relation?
Yeah. Okay. And then the only other one, the only thing I wanted to ask Laura is like, what do you think of the whole, like, not rumor, but what do you think of the whole thing of being like the opening scene of this movie is going to be one of the big three dying? Kind of shout out back to Drew Barrymore, the surprise of Drew Barrymore dying in the very first, movie, very first opening of one of the three dying in the very opening of this movie.
Okay. Well, I mean, this is a very personal question. So,
yeah, well, everybody online is like pissed off if you even asked that question, but
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be okay with it. If I had to tell you which of the three I would be okay with, the one that I'm most okay with is Dewey. But even still, I don't even think that would be like a cool opener though. I mean, if it's Sydney, I will revolt. Unless it's one of those things where it looks like she has this big, kill scene in the beginning, like Drew Barrymore, and at the very end, she comes back.
Mm-hmm.
But then I have the whole movie checked out, pissed off. So then I would have to keep watching it to like enjoy it. And then, I mean, if it was Courtney Cox, that would probably be a pretty shocking intro. But yeah, I would be so upset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's rough.
Yeah.
It's a rough question.
The only other thing I saw online was somebody mentioned that Matthew Lillard's character technically they don't think he died. He probably got arrested. Which means he probably could have been in jail this whole time. He definitely would have went to jail for attempted murder and murder. They killed Sydney's mom, so spoilers. And I just like, oh man, that would be pretty sweet if there's a scene where, whether it's Sydney or Courtney Cox or whoever, but they have to go to jail and talk to Matthew Lillard's character in jail. Something like that, Yeah,
I think I saw that actually. I think I saw that even Matthew Lillard was like, come on, guys, it was just a TV. You can survive that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, horror movies have done a lot more with much less and
True.
had someone come back in the most ridiculous ways possible. I think that would be awesome. And I've also actually been seeing around Twitter that people really wish that Kirby, she was the character in the fourth one, would come back. And I agree. And actually, we never really saw her die. So, sorry, spoilers, but I would love to see that because she made Scream 4 for me. I mean, she was Scream 4. She was awesome.
Yeah, I think I've seen that like petition online now. It's like bring Kirby back.
Yeah.
And all that. Yeah.
Funny.
Okay. All right. That's cool. All right. I think that's enough Scream talk, with Laura, kind of just wanted to ask her a couple questions and, probably a little bit we're going to be doing here and there just because I know she loves the franchise so much and everything. So I want to get her opinion on a couple of things, little ideas I had. So, okay.
I like it.
All right, so let's kind of get to a little opening of the movie here, talk a little bit about the movie, and then we'll kind of like transition a bit. But so this week, Laura's movie pick, we're doing 1997's Event Horizon. So Laura, why did you pick this movie?
I picked it for three reasons. One, I had never seen it before, and I really wanted to see it. The second reason was we haven't really done a sci-fi movie yet, so I wanted to kind of throw that in there. I know we're trying to hit all the different subgenres if we can. And then the third reason, and most important, is that I just see this movie talked about and debated so often online. I mean, it seems like it's either got that cult following or people just despise it. So yeah, I kind of wanted to see why.
Nice. That makes a lot of sense. And I think, like we talked about at the end of last episode, me and Greg, both of us have seen it, Greg, right? We've already seen this movie before going in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we both knew what we were getting into. I think we said at the end of the episode 2 last week of just like surprised Laura picked this movie because there's just so much gore in it and stuff like that. And Laura really doesn't like that stuff. So we were surprised. But so we'll hear about it a little bit later. what Laura's take was on this movie and if she was able to get through it or not, or if she ripped out her own eyeballs. But let's do our quick little horror-ish segment of the week. For anybody new listeners, this is kind of like a little quick segment we usually do before we get into the movie. It's usually a stupid question I come up with, or sometimes a game that could be 30 minutes long. So if you're listening and you want to just literally hear the movie reveal, sometimes you got to fast forward about 45 minutes. But this week we just got a question this week. So actually, this question came from Laura. Laura had a good idea for this question. So the question, pertaining to the movie Event Horizon we're doing this week is, if you were, on a space rescue mission, which famous spacecraft would you choose to be on, and who would be your co-captain, or who would be riding shotgun with you? So Laura, do you want to go first? Kind of who you think, what craft you pick in, and who's riding with you?
I'm very claustrophobic, and I'm actually horrified of space. It's one of my number one fears, actually. And so I was thinking to myself, if I have to be in space, I want to make sure that I am on the biggest spacecraft that just ever existed.
Nice.
And so my first thought was, the Death Star then, right? That thing's got to be the biggest. But then I actually did some research and I found out that the mothership from Independence Day, it's almost 500 miles in length, and it could fit 30 Death Stars in it.
Wow.
So now I'm like, well, that's it then, because I think that if I'm on something that huge, it'll hopefully take away from feeling really claustrophobic, and then just knowing I'm floating around space. But maybe if I'm just, in the ship, and it's kind of like a cruise ship, there's fun stuff to do, I just won't think about it maybe. And with everything that happened these last few days.
I have to stop you real fast.
Oh, yeah, sure.
What fun stuff are you doing on the spaceship from Independence Day? I feel like there's no amenities there. It's an alien spacecraft. Do you think they have coffee bars and
maybe a bowling alley?
They may bowl.
Do you think they're bowling?
Who knows, man? I mean, it could be their own cruise ship. They live on it. Maybe there's some fun activities to do. I don't know.
Oh my God. I would love to see the movie where Laura's wandering around the spaceship from Independence Day and trying to find the bowling alley.
Where all the bowlers at.
Oh my God, that'd be so awesome. Okay. All right. Proceed. Okay. I can't really fight you on it. I don't know what's behind the scenes. It's just true.
There was something funny that happened this weekend. So I was thinking that my co-pilot will be Chris Evans. No, I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I had to throw that in there. No, obviously.
He got his own rocket. So he's going to do
Yes, he does. No, I'm going with someone even bigger and badder than him. Sorry. I'm going with The Rock.
Oh, dang.
Oh, wow.
Because I think I would just feel so safe with him. He could kick some ass. He's nice on the eyes.
That's a good pick, Laura. That's a good pick. He's
Thank
super
you.
funny too, so it'd be entertaining.
Oh yeah, we could just watch his movies on loop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice. I like it. What about you, Greg? What spaceship would you pick, and who'd be riding with you? Is there any wieners involved?
I mean, there's always a chance of wieners. That's always, you can't throw that out of the mix.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, Laura, I totally share. We watched this movie kind of simultaneously, and we were texting back and forth, and you and I have this deep-seated fear of deep space. I think it's terrifying. The idea of just being out there with zero gravity, nothing to ground you, and you're just out in the abyss, is totally terrifying. So I'm actually going to kind of copy your idea of getting the biggest space possible, right, to inhabit. So you don't actually feel like you're in space. But I'm going to try to one-up you here and say that my ship is going to be the Nebuchadnezzar from The Matrix, because that will allow me to plug into the Matrix, and then therefore I will be free to roam about Earth at my choosing. So I'll have a whole planet, even though I'm actually in space.
But what if you get the knowledge while you're walking around space, I'm actually floating? So while you're walking around, quote unquote, Earth, what if you get the knowledge, oh shit, I'm actually in a little bubble? I
have the knowledge. I already know it. Once you've taken the red pill, you already know that this is all fake. But the Matrix it feels so real. It latches onto your visceral senses. I'm not even going to care. It's like being in a very realistic dream. That's all I care about.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, Greg. Nice
Wow.
job throwing the Matrix into this episode too.
Mhm.
That's impressive. Good
Yeah.
job.
It is. If you were plugged into the Matrix, Greg, what's your one like talent you want to learn? You know, like you learn karate in like 5 seconds. So what's the one thing you'd want to learn?
we're gonna be a bowler as well. This way that when me and Laura's ships actually meet, hers is much larger. She's gonna take me up into my tractor beam, and I'm gonna be like, you didn't realize I asked Morpheus, aka Lawrence Fishburne, to teach me to bowl,
Good
and
tie-in,
I'm
too.
gonna clean your
Mhm.
clocks, and you're not gonna expect it.
Wow.
Damn.
There you go. Wow.
Sounds like a movie right there, doesn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Man, I'd
what
watch
a great use. What a great use of the Matrix. Greg learns to bowl. Mhm.
it.
Okay, who's riding with you? Who's is somebody like with you? You're both downloading your brains into the Matrix, or is somebody just there watching you as you sleep?
No, you need
know,
someone to control the ship while you're doing that. Otherwise, you're going to crash into a meteor and everyone's obliterated. So this is the thing. When you're in space, unlike this movie, you're traveling for a long period of time. And I think you need to be in space with someone that you're not going to lose your mind over being next to. So as far as popular celebrities characters go, I am choosing Star-Lord from Guardians of the Galaxy. The dude is funny. Chris Pratt, great pilot, excellent taste in music. I feel like he's like the perfect, co-companion for a journey like that. So Star-Lord is my co-pilot.
Wow.
That's a good choice. Wow, it's crazy hearing you guys talk about like the being claustrophobic about space and this and that. So you need like a vast ship. You need something bigger and bigger. And Greg has a whole world he can explore now. Until his Wi-Fi goes down and then he's screwed.
Yeah.
But I think I might be able to top you guys all because I'm picking the TARDIS. I'm picking the TARDIS from Doctor Who, which I think if anybody watches, it is a phone booth, but inside the TARDIS, it's almost infinite. Like there's multiple rooms. There's definitely a bowling alley. I know for a fact there's a swimming pool, so I'm picking the TARDIS, and definitely riding shotgun with me is going to be the 10th Doctor, David Tennant's. Cause I took this literally like we're going to save somebody on a recon mission. So I would want somebody that's actually, good at saving people and can help and stuff like that.
The Rock is great at saving people.
Like as a character, as the characters he plays, not like the real person. You're getting like Dwayne Johnson. You're not getting like a character from the movie, are you?
Sure.
Okay, but which movie then are you picking? And which Rock?
All of them.
Well, he does play the same character in every movie, I guess.
Hey,
so I guess that would work.
You watch yourself when you talk about him.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm sorry, Laura.
He's the Jumanji Rock, so he's got several lines.
Oh, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah.
Okay, calm down, Laura.
Getting really excited.
Okay, all right. Well, good choices, everybody. Good choices. I would like to see our little movie where we're off doing stuff. You guys are bowling, and I'm actually saving somebody. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you're saving Greg. His Wi-Fi went down. He's just floating around space.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Greg is the one that sent out the beacon. I got to go
mission
save
one
him.
for you is save Greg.
I got to save Greg. Yeah, that's true.
Mission top secret.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. All right. Well, good answers, you guys. Good answers. Yeah. If anybody wants to email in their answers of what spacecraft they would choose and who would be their co-captain, you can email us conjecturingpod@gmail.com, or you can hit us up Twitter, Instagram at conjecturingpod. So let's get into the actual movie now. So now it's time to let's board the ship. Let's board the ship and get to the movie this week. So like we said, we're doing Event Horizon, 1997 film. Director is Paul W.S. Anderson. Laura put on here he did the Resident Evil franchise. He did a bunch of those movies. She didn't put on here that he actually did the 1995 classic Mortal Kombat, which
cool.
I fucking love.
He directed Mortal Kombat?
The OG Mortal Kombat. I fucking love that movie.
I love that movie.
It's like, I guess overall it's not great maybe, but man, it's just, it was so great watching it back in the day. I thought it was so cool. I mean, still it might be one of the best, video game adaptations. It's pretty cool.
Okay, by the way, Rob, that's like 50% the movie theme soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And also an interesting note, he met his wife on Resident Evil because it's Mila Jovovich.
Oh, wow.
That's
all
his
making sense now.
Yeah, so that's his wife's, which I thought was really crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah, so the budget of this movie is $60 million. Box office was not good, $26 million. It definitely did not make money in the box office. I think most people didn't like it when it came out. It really got a cult following later on after, it came out and DVD and stuff like that, and VHS back in the day. And Laura, do you want to do some interesting facts about the movie?
Yeah. So the initial cut of the film ran 130 minutes and was quite violent. So Paramount, I guess, ordered to cut the film by 30 minutes and tone down on some of that violence. And it was announced in 2012 that a full version of the film had actually been found on a VHS tape somewhere in a salt mine in Transylvania.
Whoa. Damn.
Yeah. So I thought that
crazy.
was, it almost sounded like, okay, this footage is like actually evil, actually from hell. And I guess Anderson revealed in 2017 that obviously due to horrible archiving, like they didn't take very good care of this extra footage because they thought it was such crap that we'll never get a director's cut and a longer version no longer exists. And I just thought we needed to know this fact because one of the biggest arguments is that in taking out those 30 minutes, yes, a lot of the gore was taken out and the time was cut down, but it did go into a lot of backstories. Like I actually just read not too long before we got on tonight that they go in deeper to the guy that he had served with, the one that's like at the very end. And honestly, that would have been great because I remember Greg and I were texting at this point and we were like, I think we said like, who is that? So anyway, I mean, I won't talk about it for too long, but I just thought that was really interesting. And I think that a lot of times when they make you cut stuff out of movies, it's for the best. But in this situation, and it's rare, it actually probably wasn't for the best.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, and then we got cast of this movie. We have, there's a lot of big people in this movie. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne, plays, Captain Miller. You got Sam Neill, who's fucking, God, he's so good in this fucking movie. So many good one-liners in this once he goes insane. You got Richard Jones as Cooper. You got Jack Noseworthy as, what is it, Ensign? Or Justin, or Baby Bear.
Baby Bear.
Baby Bear, yeah, and then you got a couple other people here and there. I'm not gonna go through everybody.
No.
Laura, do you want to do synopsis?
Yeah. So this movie is about a spacecraft called Event Horizon that was sent by the government into space and has been missing for like 7 years, I think they said, but it has recently reappeared. And so this team, they're on a ship called the Lewis and Clark, and they've been sent to explore or rescue whatever or whoever is on the ship. And we eventually find out that there is just straight evil aboard the ship and more or less takes them down one by one in some of the most gruesome ways possible. Yeah. Pretty intense.
Pretty intense. Yeah. I know. I know you don't regret your movie choice, Laura, but
I don't.
You're kind of like, holy shit, like, were you even expecting some of this or?
I feel like I was pretty warned. I mean, you guys warned me. I've read about it. I actually have a very good friend who has been wanting me to review this movie. But, I definitely got warned that it's very dark. It's very gory. So yeah. Wow.
Okay. Good. I'm glad you survived, Laura. Good job.
Yeah. Thank
I'm glad
you.
you survived. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it. Let's just kind of start with the opening of this movie, like we usually do. Kind of like the opening setup. Maybe like the first bit of this movie. Greg, what did you kind of think of the opening in this movie?
Oh, the opening to me was the best part of the movie. Kind of get this shot of the space station where a lot of the ships are docking, and they kind of set you up by saying, okay, this is the history of human space travel. In 2015, it was like our first settlement on the moon, which we were kind of joking, that they've sort of overestimated mankind's abilities. I mean, I feel like 2015 we were debating whether the dress was blue or white, and they're like, we've settled on the moon, So okay, cool. And then they said, 30 or 40 years later, 2047, we've established a colony on Mars. So they're kind of giving you a synopsis of like where we're headed. So it's kind of a cool setup. You see a lot of the spacecraft stuff. I didn't like how it started off by saying mission top secret. I mean, I felt that was kind of over explained. I mean, just let us see it, let's just let the scene unfold and we'll understand that it's top secret. But yeah, other than that, the whole opening scene is really you just understanding that you're on board this ship with like a ragtag group of space rescue personnel. And then Sam Neill's character, Dr. Weir, is kind of like a fish out of water guy, and he plays that role really well. He's not part of the crew, but he's just been on board, and nobody knows why he's there. And he's like trying to talk to the captain. Hey, I appreciate you taking me on board. And he gets cut off at every pass. It's just a really good setup to get to know the feeling that this crew has a routine. They're going through the motions. They're getting ready to go in stasis, which maybe one of you guys can talk about. And he's still like in awe of the ship, and kind of like out of place there. I thought that was a really great setup.
Yeah. What about you, Laura? What do you think of like the opening of this movie?
Yeah, I agree. I think the opening is pretty strong. It's got a good setup. It starts off with the most intense music, which just continues on throughout the whole movie. So that is super fun. And yeah, I definitely think that out of all of the kind of opening scenes, when everyone gets into their little pods filled with water, which they call stasis, I always think that is the coolest. That is like my favorite trope of every sci-fi movie. I don't know why. I think maybe because that actually doesn't exist in real life, but yet we see it in like every sci-fi film. I just think it's really cool.
We need something like that just on Earth now. Like if I'm taking a plane to New York City and I just want to go into stasis for, 5 hours and just wake up there, they need
maybe
to have
that's what it is. Yeah, it's very appealing. I'm horrified by it, but I also am like, that would be nice. I don't want to have to like be on this long ass journey somewhere.
So you're just really longing for a nap. You just want to like, take a nap right now. That's it. Yeah, but I mean, the opening of this movie, yeah, I did like the opening of this movie. I mean, like you talked about, they kind of set up, what they're doing, where they're going. They do the whole, like, these, like Greg said, these are all the crew. It's pretty much the same typical thing for most sci-fi movies. There's like Greg said, a ragtag bunch of people. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own personality. But I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was like over explained, that much. I was like, okay, I get what you're talking about. I do like a couple of the funny parts where they're like, oh, can you break it down in layman's terms, like what the Event Horizon does and where we're going? And he starts going off into like mathematical terms, and they're like, no, wait, like layman's, like we don't know what we're talking about. So I thought that was kind of funny, or even the part where he's talking about the black hole theory, and he does the whole trick with like bringing the paper and putting two holes in it and bend it in half, and then it's like one of the guys like nudie posters that from like his wall, and he's like, hey, he's like, that's mine. I thought that was kind of funny,
Yeah.
Yes, I like the opening. I thought it did a good job setting up what you need to know to get into the movie. Do you guys what did you guys think of like the actual characters themselves?
I mean, I think that our favorite character was probably Cooper, right? I mean, so funny, just delivered some of the best lines. But obviously this character doesn't have like a whole lot of screen time, Most of them don't, except for Dr. Weir and Captain Miller. And I really like Dr. Weir, so Sam Neill, when he's evil. I think that was great acting. I thought he played, it. So basically, he starts off this journey as, a captain, or, he was the creator of the Event Horizon, and he's just so passionate about it. That's why he's on this rescue mission to go back to his ship that he created. He wants to see what happened, but he completely lets the evil that's on the ship take over him, probably because he was so passionate about it and just completely unwilling to let it go. So I think once that happens, the acting was fantastic. And I do like Sam Neill as an actor, but I gotta say, his acting in the beginning, I was confused because I've heard a lot of people say, oh, it's incredible. And I was not feeling it. There was a scene, and maybe this is my little condition, I don't know, but he has visions of his deceased wife. And these visions are all horrifying. And during one of his visions, something happens, and this is how he screams. He goes, oh! I was like, what? Was that supposed to be done that way? I was very confused. So I was not a fan of his acting in the beginning, I have to say. I don't know, probably unpopular opinion, but
it's not that bad, Laura. I get what you're saying. It is definitely. I mean, when he goes like insane, he really leans into the over the top like insanity. But yeah, I get what you're saying. What about you, Greg? What did you kind of think of some of the actors, or their acting and stuff like that?
Yeah, to me, number one is Lawrence Fishburne. The rest of the cast was fine. I think everyone's actually a pretty good actor, but I have big beef with a lot of the lines that they were given, but we'll get into that. But to me, I thought Lawrence Fishburne was the best because throughout the movie, I kept getting drawn out by a lot of the overacting and a lot of the lines and a lot of things that just kind of pulled me out. But I feel like his character always pulled me back in. He was always very measured and balanced and yet serious. And to me, throughout the movie, he was the glue the entire way that I thought just kind of kept me in it. So he was number one for me.
Yeah, I mean, like I'd have to say, like Laura, like Sam Neill to me, he is this movie. Like he once he goes insane and gives into the ship and all that, and like I said, leans into the insanity. I mean, he dials that dial up to 100, and it's like it's beautiful. It's so awesome to see him like go crazy, and so many great one-liners from him in this movie. But like Greg said though too, like overall, like I thought the acting was pretty good by everybody. I thought everybody had really super genuine reactions. I mean, we're talking about these are a lot of great actors. This isn't some other like lower horror movies where it's like a lot of newbies or anything like that. But I thought acting overall was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about like the set design because I thought the whole like design of like the ship, the interiors, the space suits, like I thought everything was on point as far as visually for this movie.
Yeah.
What did you think, Greg?
Oh my God, yeah. This is probably one of the most incredibly designed movie sets that I've ever seen. The spacesuits were terrific. Their boots, like the magnetic boots, when they would, click and latch onto the ground. Every corridor, every hallway. Right now, our Zoom backgrounds are this kind of like metallic spinning corridor that's used to. They kind of explain it. Somehow it diffuses the gravity before you get to the gravity chamber. It's all probably BS, but it doesn't matter. It looked cool. Every single scene was amazing, and I feel like that's where you should spend your money, and that's where it's well spent. Is just designing these sets. When they got onto the Event Horizon, well, their rescue ship wasn't too bad either. It kind of had this, in the main deck. I thought the Captain Miller's chair was kind of.
It was odd.
It was odd because he's kind of floating there, and it looks cool, but it's not really conducive to space travel because it's like it's suspended from the ceiling. It kind of looks like an old grandma in a wheelchair, and kind of just
like I had to second guess myself. Like, oh, was he in a wheelchair? I had to like think back to other scenes.
It's a cool idea, but the thing is, this is like my thing is Lawrence Fishburne commands such a presence on the screen. He's a badass, and I think this is a few years before he did The Matrix. As a captain. You are the central, figure. You could be a man, woman, whatever, but you are solid, right? You're grounded, and everything goes around you. Nothing goes out of your watch. So think of like Star Trek. You have a captain's chair. You're lounging back, and you're kind of in this comfortable state where you can survey all of your pilots, and you can survey in front of you. That's the power and the command of a captain. He's got his legs kind of like squished together, and he's like floating, and it's just a cool idea in concept, but in execution, it makes him look silly and wimpy. And I thought that was bad, but like I can appreciate the idea behind it. Like they were trying to be innovative. It's cool. I mean, I think what they should have done is fix it to the ground and made it like swivel 360. Like that would have been cool. But still, like you can appreciate the fact that the sets were just incredible. I can think of few other movies that had more elaborate, impressive sets at the time.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, like you said, right when you see Lawrence Fishburne's the captain's chair, it's so like weird. Like your eyes are like, wait, what's happening right now? It looks so unnatural. One and two. I was trying to decide. I'm like, did they CGI like his chair? Like it just looked so weird in the scene. like the chair itself, it was so odd looking. And I didn't even think about the fact what you're talking about, Greg, of like how, how like wimpy it made him look, and you're so right. Like looking back at him, like, yeah, you're right. Because if he's not in the chair, he's super like, heroic in this movie and like, assertive. And he's the captain. But yeah, when he's in that chair, he just seems so like we're listening to this guy. Like, why don't you swivel around the other way, buddy? But overall, yeah, the set design is like immaculate in this movie. I mean, God, everything is so cool looking. I mean, almost every set piece is art,
Oh, yeah.
Every set piece is art, everything looks so awesome. Like I said, very textured. Everything looks so real. Man, it was so cool. I mean, the actual, whatever you want to call it, is it called the Event Horizon room? The gate, whatever it's called, the gate room, where it's like the sphere and everything's inside there. And that
That's
room.
the gravity drive.
The gravity drive room.
Yeah.
Like that room is just so crazy looking with all the like dials everywhere, and like all the walls have like circles within circles within circles, and then those circles have like little circles, and there's I don't know why there was spikes everywhere. That's a different thing we could talk about later. I don't understand how that could be safe at all. But yeah, the set design in this movie is so awesome. I mean, it's so cool just to visually see everything in it. What about you, Laura? What do you think of the set design?
Yeah, I agree with what you both are saying. I think that overall, this is my favorite part of this movie. And I agree. I think it was perfection. I mean, minus some bad CGI of like items floating around when they first board the ship, which was horrible. I feel like I just need to just throw it out of my brain and never think about it again, because everything else was basically practical. And yeah, I mean, you were kind of talking about the spiky things in the gravity room, whatever it was called. I thought that was cool too, because in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this is a fucking hell ship, This is what a hell ship would look like. I didn't know until now. And now that I've seen it, I'm like, this is what it is. So yeah, I just thought it was great.
Yeah. So cool. Yeah. Let's talk about, let's talk a little bit about the movie here a bit. We already talked about the opening, kind of setting up with the movie as we kind of went over some other stuff now, but I mean, just talking about what's going on in this movie a bit, pretty much, like I said, this ship disappeared 7 years ago. Sam Neill's character built this, built this thing to go into, travel through time quicker, blah, blah. To me, it had like a black hole.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much it did it. The original crew, initiated it, and then they're gone. Nobody knows what happened to them. So the team has to go try to rescue them. And then as they're on the ship, people start seeing things. They find an old like CD. I think Greg didn't really like the fact that they had an old CD in there, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I thought that they could have been, like what you do in sci-fi movies, you invent technology that doesn't exist. Back to the Future was great at that. They invented hoverboards. They invented a bunch of stuff that could never be invented, because the movie was set like 40 years in the future. I thought if you're going to create technology that's set 50 years in the future, just come up with something ridiculous. And you might have landed on a flash drive. I don't know. But it was still like CD-ROM. And that was kind of funny.
Yeah, or at least like, we started with a floppy disk, which was square, and then we have a CD, which is circle. At least go to a triangle. At least make it a triangle, something basic like that. But they find a disc, which was like the last transmission of the original crew. And they kind of start playing some of it, and they see some images, but it's not clear yet, kind of what's going on. So like I said, then people start seeing things. Everybody is seeing kind of their worst fear, I guess you would say. Their worst fear they're seeing, Sam Neill, like Laura said, he started seeing stuff before he even got on the ship, which is kind of crazy, which kind of goes into like, my thing of like, I'm wearing like the Shining shirt of just saying like how many call outs there are to the Shining in this movie.
A lot.
I didn't notice any. Why don't you guys explain that?
You didn't notice any of them, Greg? Oh my God.
I guess I'm just not a big Shining buff. I didn't know.
How did you not notice the scene where all the blood comes down? It looks exactly like the elevator.
Maybe that's the only one that struck me. But
no, there's that one. There's just in general of Sam Neill's character, being like pulled towards insanity. The overall presence. You could even say it's very similar to, The Shining of the hotel itself is haunted. And in this movie, the ship is haunted.
Mhm.
You know, it's like the very similar things like that, where the
Yeah.
ship is trying to keep him there. And even
That's so
the multiple,
cool.
the multiple times where Sam Neill is just literally like, no, like we can't leave.
Yeah.
You know, like we have to stay here. And it's the same as The Shining, where he's like telling Wendy, like, no, like we have to stay here now. Like
Mhm.
this place wants us to stay.
Yeah.
And then to me, the only other one I really spotted out, I made note about it, was when they show Sam Neill's wife like killing herself, and it's like the bathroom scene, and it's very similar to me to the bathroom scene from The Shining with the old woman.
Mhm.
But yeah, you know, like I said, everybody sees things and stuff like that. Do you guys want to shout out any of the crazy things people seen? Did anything get you more or less? Like, did the little kids scare you more, or the fire guy, or, you know, anything like that?
I think probably. Actually, I don't feel like any of these things really scared me too much. I actually weirdly liked that they were smart enough to know that they were seeing things. I mean, so they were smart enough to know that, but the evil is so strong that I think the first person to really see something and let it attribute to their demise is Peters. Because, you know, she left behind her son who was in a wheelchair, and she keeps seeing him, and she's aware of it. You know, she tells them all matter of factly, I'm having visions too. I'm seeing my son. So she's smart enough to know he's not here. These, you know, visions are happening to me because I'm on the ship and some weird stuff's going on. But yet then she sees him again and he's running around, and she has to chase after him. And so I actually thought all of that was pretty cool. I think that probably the scariest one is still like Sam Neill's wife without the eyes. And then we do see the scene where she committed suicide, and kind of gives you some backstory, because he's riddled with guilt, because it sounds like he was a workaholic. He was dedicated to the creation of this ship, and he wasn't around, which caused her to commit suicide. So, yeah, I thought that was actually a really cool part of the movie. I wouldn't say anything really scared me too much from that part.
Really? Because I feel like there was a couple good like jump scares in this movie. I mean, even if you talk about like the original, like right when they go on to the event horizon and they're kind of like searching to see if they could find the original crew, and it's just like the very subtle like Lawrence Fishburne character standing there, and then like a hand like touches his shoulder, and he physically jumps, which makes you physically jump watching.
Yeah.
But you know, and then just, I mean, overall though, like the parts where they're kind of like disoriented and they're kind of like either running through hallways or talking about Peters looking for her son, she's like, her head is swiveling really quickly back and forth, and so like the camera is doing it at the same time. I thought those little effects were, like you said, not really like scary, but very like unnerving and a little bit jarring.
Yes.
You know
Actually,
what I mean?
I will say this movie, up until a certain point, which we're getting close to talking about, which was what actually scared me. I had a lot of anxiety through this movie. So,
yeah, exactly.
So that was huge, because I was actually watching this movie and I looked down and realized that my leg was shaking. I was just shaking my leg like while I was sitting there watching it. So, you know, you got to give it credit for that.
Yeah. What about you, Greg? Did any of the like, you know, jump scares or any of the people being, I feel weird saying haunted. It feels weird to say haunted because I know it's not really like a ghost, but, you know, did any of the characters, you know, events that they were experiencing kind of get you more than others?
Yeah, for the most part, they were all pretty disturbing, just in content. But I've always had this fear of being, and you see this in a lot of movies that involve deep sea exploration, where if you surface too fast, you get air bubbles in your blood, and there's this like a depressurization. And they do this with Justin Bieber, you know?
Bieber. You can't even say it, can you?
Justin Bieber?
Justin Bieber. Oh God! Please don't have that. If anybody new is listening, don't turn off the pod now because we mentioned Justin Bieber.
I didn't get it. I just thought you like refused to say baby bear, so you were like Bee Bear.
I'm trying to shorten it. So he's actually the first one to sort of lose it, right? Because he touched this like Stargate looking liquid.
He like got sucked in, dude. He got
sucked sucked in. You're right.
Yeah.
You know, the gravity drive turned on and he touched it like an idiot. Why would you touch it? But
exactly.
He touched it and it sucked him in, and who knows what he saw or what affected him. But then when it spit him back, he was never the same again. But it comes to the point where he decides to kill himself. So he sends himself out through an airlock. And that was terrifying because you see his veins kind of expanding, bubbling up. And I don't know, man. That depressurization thing has always been like a big fear of mine. So that scene was kind of gross to me, and it really got me. But everything else was, while disturbing, was digestible for me.
So you're definitely, Greg, you're not going to space. You're not going under the ocean that much. So
No.
you're just status on the land. Like, you're not really going anywhere.
Yeah, or hook me up to the Matrix. Like
This is really interesting because my second greatest fear after space is the ocean, like being stuck. I think Greg and I have the exact same fears. That is crazy.
What it is.
Were you guys afraid to go on Finding Nemo and Disneyland?
Oh, I've never been on it.
Oh, I legit have to not have panic attacks on that ride. Yeah. In fact, oh my God, this is embarrassing, but this is Disneyland we're talking about. I'm sure they have this ride at Disney World as well. And before it was the Finding Nemo ride, it was just like the yellow submarine ride.
Yeah.
So I've been going on this ride every trip to Disneyland my whole life. I don't love it, but everyone else I go with likes it. And the only reason why I do okay is because, when you're panicking, if you have any kind of panic disorder or anxiety disorder, you feel like you can't breathe very well, or you're like grasping for air. I know a lot of people say that if they're indoors and they panic, they want to go outside and get that fresh air or something.
Yeah.
Well, when you're on this ride and you're in your little bucket seat and you got your little personal window in front of you, they have some air holes right at the bottom. So if you shove your face right up against your little window, all this air is shooting up at you. And so what I do is I just pretend I'm so into the ride that I'm just so close to the window. But really, I'm just taking very, very deep breaths of this air, like you're breathing. It's okay.
Yeah. That's funny.
Geez.
That's funny. Yeah. You guys are crazy. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about, I guess what you really take away from this movie is like the gore and the crazy visuals in this movie. I know when we picked it, after we went off the air, I told Laura, I'm like, I don't even be able to watch this, Laura. There's some really fucked up imagery in this movie. So what do you guys think of like the gore? I don't even want to call it gore. I mean, it's gory, but just some of the imagery in this movie, and just how far it goes. What do you think about that, Greg?
It goes pretty far, but it comes in flashes, which allows you to absorb it. You guys were talking about there was an uncut version. Jeez, I don't know what the uncut version looks like. I'm interested to know, but I'm also cool with not knowing.
Yeah. What about you, Laura? How did you handle some of the imagery in this movie?
I was prepared. So I think that some of the really gory scenes, like, people falling to their demise and just so much blood and, ripping eyeballs out. Or like the guy that's been kind of splayed open over a table with all of his insides out. Stuff normally would get to me a little bit, but we've been watching these movies for some time now, and I feel like I'm getting a little more numb to it than I used to be, And so the part that obviously is the absolute worst is when they are able to clean up the video footage. And what you see is like a satanic orgy. It's an orgy. And the scenes that you're getting quickly are things that I will not be able to unsee and I'm going to be thinking about forever. Specifically, there is like a full fist and forearm that goes down somebody's throat. And just a lot of like things happening where it was like, at the time, I was like, this is disgusting. And I can't believe I just saw that. And I don't know if it's my brain. I only watched this once, shielding myself from what I saw, or if you don't have like a lot of time to really absorb all the detail. So it kind of leaves you with like a fuzzier memory. It sticks with you, but you kind of forget the details. And so I just remember making so much noise during the scene, like, oh my God, it was just, it wouldn't stop. It was horrifying. And then, and that's also when the captain of the Event Horizon, the first go round, like takes out his eyes and then shows it to the video camera with, like in his palms. To answer your question, Greg, I had to learn about the footage that was cut. And it sounds like this scene where they show the video footage actually goes on a lot longer. And it's like, if you missed it the first time because you were either like looking away or kind of confused what was happening, it's very clear it was an orgy. I read that it's scenes of people like ripping out flesh from each other's necks. Someone's getting impaled from the back while being hit from the back.
Do I not know what an orgy is?
I know. I was gonna say, is that what happens in an orgy?
It's like
I
a
wasn't aware of that.
sacrificial orgy.
I was gonna say I'm gonna cancel my plans for next weekend. Yeah.
It actually even sounds like out of all the different people, doing it, some people are just like doing it like rough. And then other ones are people are eating each other. Not like that. Like actually eating flesh, or just like
not the good type of eating,
murdering each other in horrific ways. So yeah, I can't imagine seeing more of that scene. That to me was the most fucked up scene of this movie, the scariest scene for me. Yeah. At that point, it wasn't just my leg shaking. I wasn't jumping up and down. That's not the right phrase. I just like was bouncing around because I was like, make it stop.
Yeah. I mean, I know I read something on the internet about, the, what do you want to call it? Demonic sex scene, I read that for that scene, like you said, it was definitely longer in the other cut, that they brought in porn stars and, amputees. So those were the two, that was the casting call for that scene, was like people that are in like the, entertainment, like pretty much comfortable being nude, or you're an amputee. So pretty much everybody in that scene falls into one of those two categories. So that just kind of tells you all you need to know about that scene in those, like, maybe 5 to 10 seconds they show stuff.
Oh, that made my stomach hurt.
But definitely the gore overall in this movie is pretty jarring, especially I think the three of us don't really like a lot of that gore, but I think it's definitely the biggest takeaway you take away from this movie though, is those scenes. Like if those scenes weren't in this movie, I don't think this movie would be as highly, I won't say it's highly rated, but as highly memorable without those scenes though, because it's just so crazy.
Yeah.
It's true. Honestly, you need it for this movie. If you're really going to show what hell looks like, they go for it. I think that for the time that this came out, and compared to other movies that we've seen, like it sure seems like a hell ship to me. This is like as awful as it gets, just being tortured in these absolutely disgusting ways.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about like the directing in this movie. I thought this was a really well directed movie. I thought there was multiple scenes in this movie that I thought were really cool shots. I think one of the first ones I remember making a note about was when something's wrong with like the electricity or the drive's going down, and Sam Neill has to climb into like this, it's like an air duct, but it has like computer chips like all over the walls, and they're illuminated in green. Visually, that's just a cool visual. Like, just going back to set design of like, that's what their, programming looks like of the inside of the ship. I thought was really cool looking. But in that scene, there's a part where Sam Neill starts hearing like his wife's voice. And I don't know how they did this, but Sam Neill is like looking at the camera, like, like he's looking through the hallway, he's looking at the camera. And then behind him, the background like moves away. It like elongates behind him. And I don't know if that's like a CG shot or they use some type of like thing where they move the camera a certain way. But I remember thinking to myself, like, that is a really cool shot, especially for 1997, to have the background behind a still actor like move like it's being elongated through a tunnel. Did you guys have any good directed scenes you want to shout out, or just overall directing you want to talk about?
Yeah, as far as camera work, you said it. The directing of that was good. I thought I had big problems with the way that the actors were directed, but as far as like how they flowed from shot to shot and gave you the sense of vastness of the Event Horizon ship, I thought they did a really great job with that.
Yeah, that's a good point. There is a big difference between like, directed shots and the visuals that we already think are awesome, and then like how the actors are directed. That's interesting, Greg. I want to hear like the big gripes you have with that.
Yeah. All right. Let's get into some positives and negatives then. We already shouted out a lot of, I think, most of the positives, like visually, are kind of things that stand out the most in this, whether it's, an orgy scene or a cool visual turning circle. Yeah. So what? Let's start with Greg then. Greg, what's some of your positives and I guess more of your negatives? Because I feel like maybe you have more negatives than I have about this movie.
Yeah, the main positive for me is that the concept is just so unique, and I've never seen it done in any other movie. I thought that it was fantastic, and you guys, we've touched on it several times. It's the concept of like taking hell and making it like a scientific property or principle or something that we've tried to expand our technological limits so far. We created a black hole. We can travel to another universe thinking that, wow, we're going to preserve the human race. We're going to find other universes to go in and inhabit and make friends with aliens. Oh, shoot. No, we didn't. We ripped a hole in the universe and we found ourselves in a realm that we can't conceive. And it's just full of chaos and ideas that we can't process in our brains. And it's just full of absolute horror. So that's my major positive. As far as negative, I just hate it. So you guys know that my biggest gripe in movies is feeling like my hand is being forced. Pace is big for me. I don't like being pushed through a movie where I feel like I'm being pushed too fast or I'm being pulled in a direction that doesn't feel organic. And I thought a lot of the actors were great. They had a lot of energy. They had a lot of fervor. They delivered their lines the best that they could. But the things that they said were terrible. The worst scene that for me was that initial scene where they're all together and Sam Neill's character is trying to discuss physics 101 with astronauts who have been flying through space their entire career.
Yeah.
And then he goes, well, we've discovered faster than light travel. And then the first thing that Smith says, he goes, excuse me, you actually can't do that. Like, so he's already throwing like attitude toward the doctor he's never met before, that he doesn't understand where he's coming from. It just seems way too rushed in just a few seconds. But then like the things that they say, they really lost me. Stark says, the law of relativity prohibits faster than light travel. Yes, obviously, you're astronauts. That goes without saying. You don't need to explain it. It seems like a lot of exposition in this scene. And I mean, I'm not going to go over all of them, but the main idea that I just want to convey is that everything just seems so forced throughout the entire thing. And I don't know that there's enough time. Maybe you could have made the movie longer, but the things that they were consistently saying, the reason why it seemed overacted, I guess, is because you don't know these characters yet. I feel like in other movies like Alien or in Predator or movies where you have like an ensemble cast of different unique personalities, you get little tidbits of their personality in the beginning, but you don't get it full on. You let it gradually grow on you. None of these characters, to me, had a chance to grow on me. So then when they're throwing attitude and shade at each other and yelling, oh, you saw that, I didn't see that, you're hallucinating. It was just totally lost to me.
I'm just like flabbergasted right now, Laura. Are you like surprised, Laura, how much he's trashing certain things in this movie that coming from the guy who loves most of the garbage movies we review, say The Faculty, which it literally, what you're talking about is our gripes with The Faculty. It's like an ensemble cast. You know, their lines are horribly written. You know, how come The Faculty to you gets so much leeway, you know, and this movie doesn't?
Yeah, that's a good question. See, the thing is, this is in Alien, I feel like this ragtag group theme makes sense because that's their job. Their job is to be terrestrial beings, right? Their job is on planets. But these people, what they do for a living is be in space and go rescue people. So they should be astronauts. Like, I think maybe we've been spoiled by astronaut movies. That you get onto a ship, you need to know how astrophysics works, right? All of you. It doesn't matter if you're a medical technician, a communications tech, if you're whoever. You basically, like square one, you need to be an astronaut. Then you can be a biologist, or then you can be a weapons expert. You know, there's that scene where they get to the event horizon, and then Dr. Weir goes, oh, that's not a load-bearing structure, and the pilot grabs onto it with the clamping and goes, it is now. And I'm thinking, whoa, you just risked the entire life of the crew to grab onto something you didn't know would hold that weight because you're kind of a badass. Again, this is totally, I can tell by you guys' directions, like I'm being totally nitpicky, but a lot of this stuff just really lost me.
No, I don't mind you being nitpicky.
Yeah,
I just
I
like
don't- I
you didn't answer my original question of like, why is it okay to be nitpicky in this movie but not be nitpicky in The Faculty? Like, is like what you're kind of the way you explained
Well,
it is like these are
answer that
signs.
question.
No, he
Well, in the
well,
faculty, you're talking about teenage personalities, which really can flex a little bit, and it's really varied, especially in the '90s when you had cliques. Again, we talked about this before. I don't know if you have that nowadays, but back then when people were in various groups, pretty much anything goes. You fell into certain groups, and it made sense. But now we're not talking about social groups. We're talking about technology. We're talking about a person's profession, a person's occupation. And maybe as being a person in their 30s, this is more of like what I identify with. So it's not like, I think if I saw this movie for the first time in my teenage years, and I remember liking it a lot and not really caring about all the scientific stuff because I bought into it. But now I'm thinking like, okay, well, no organization just sends you into space, right? Where very few people are going. No one sends you into space if you're not like a genius. Like, I guess this is the thing. It's like knowing the astronauts that NASA sends into space. These are the cream of the crop. These are people who pass insane physical tests. These are people who are being, supported by billions of dollars to go into space, who are at the top of their profession, right? So then when you show me like this, see, Alien is one thing, but when you show me this and you tell me that, okay, this is only 30 years removed from 2015, I feel like this crew cannot make those professional snafus. They can't. I don't know. Again, like I feel like I'm on kind of a lonely island here because it's like
no, I don't think you're on a lonely island. I think Laura might agree with you somewhat. I'm just trying to get clarity in my head of what you're saying, and so pretty much your biggest negative is practicality. That's your biggest negative is the practicality of like actual like astronauts and what they should or shouldn't know. Right?
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Right.
But like the practicality to me is manifest through what they say. So like if they would have been given different lines, I could probably spend a day and write different lines for everybody and it would go over a lot better for me.
So like clearly this movie wasn't like The Martian, which like worked hand in hand with NASA to make sure like everything they're legitly saying is accurate and in protocol. Like this was just a movie made in 1997 by a guy that was coming off Mortal Kombat. That was like, hey, you know, it'd be cool if we clamped that low bearing clip there. It'd be a pretty funny scene. Like nobody gave a shit about any of the actual effects and how they would do things, you know? But okay, I was just trying to understand a little bit more what you're talking about, but okay. All right, what about you, Laura? Do you agree with Greg more? Are you more like me and you're upset that he's even talking about this stuff?
Can I just say, I love when I am not on one of the ends of the argument. I love it. I love listening to you guys debate. So I don't know if you guys feel the same way, like you love it when I'm debating with the other one of you, but man, it makes me feel so good. I feel like
I can keep going, but I don't want to make.
I like it. I feel like I'm the optimist. I like to think that way. I like to think forward thinking, but then when something just gets me a certain way, I have a hard time overcoming it. And this is one.
And
that's why I think that's why I'm so taken back right now is because like
usually
I've never really seen this side of you. You're so much like the optimist and you're so much like, you know, this movie is like, you know, cheesy or whatever, but I love it. I love the cheese. This movie, like for some reason you're like, I'm not eating that fucking cheese.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not eating space cheese, you know? And it's just something I wasn't expecting it. So I'm taken back. And then too, I'm just like, wow, it's crazy, you know?
No, Rob, you have to remember that. And I know Greg has seen Event Horizon before, but movies that we've seen when we're a little bit younger that have like some kind of emotional connection for us, you can't
they get imprinted on us.
Yeah. So you can't compare this with Greg with The Faculty. We just can't do that because I have those movies too. We can't do that. But it is funny to me because this whole time I've been like, how funny, Greg, that you are like, oh, so now they're doing all this smart ass commenting and I haven't even gotten to know their personalities and their characters yet. When we watched The Thing, and that was my biggest gripe, is that we don't know any of these assholes one from the other. And you were like, I loved that. I loved that we didn't really know who any of them were. So that is where I'm like, man, Rob, you should have argued that movie.
But in The Thing, do you guys remember me saying in The Thing, I loved how they were actually boring?
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like,
that's true.
because in their bland personalities, I got it, because they were just normal scientists. They didn't need to try to make their imprint on the movie. Like, there were a lot of forgettable characters, but in a good way. I'm glad a lot of those people took a backseat. In this one, I felt like every time that Cooper said something that he thought was going to be, funny, looks like Doc's got a case of the willies. I mean, he kind of had like a moment, baby bear, you better keep your nose clean. And then there was a pause. I felt like that was him trying to like shine, and it took me out. But that's my response to you. Like, I just think that it's kind of different, like knowing them versus not knowing them.
I accept that answer. I will let you win this one. But the other ones, I don't know if I'm going to let you win.
Yeah, I want to hear what you think about the other stuff.
So sure. I'll tell you straight up, I agree with that scene in the very beginning when I had the same thought. You guys are astronauts and you have to ask him to re-explain something that you should know 3 times. And I get that it's because we as viewers don't know what they're talking about. That's why they did it. But you're right. Like, they all were like, no, layman's term. Like, they kept saying it like, no, we don't get it. It's like, dude, yeah, you do. You all like clearly get it, So I'll give you that. I for sure will. But first of all, if I were out on a rescue mission, I would be fucking scared shitless. So there's that. But if you then told me that what I thought I was doing was not what I was doing, and everything I thought I knew about this Event Horizon ship, it was wrong. And now you've brought me there. It's all fucked up. Now my ship, something's wrong with my ship, and now I'm stuck on it and I have to try to figure out a way out. So yeah, I'm probably going to think of doing crazy stuff. Like the guy who puts the thing on, what did you guys say it was? I don't.
Oh, he clamps
on the door. Not a load bearing thing or something. They're just like, get me off this ship.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I feel like my mind goes in 2 directions. One is along your track, which is to say that, look, a lot of the lines that they say and a lot of the things that they do in response to this crazy situation seem right on paper. Like, I love the lines, like where he goes, fuck layman's terms, do you speak English? Like, on paper, that seems good, but there's another side of me where I feel like it was rushed, or like when they're discussing what they saw and what they didn't see. And this is where, like, I feel like people should, in the middle of space, you give people more benefit of the doubt. I feel like you're not as adversarial. This isn't like Predator, because I think they actually do it better, where you have a group of people who argue with each other because they're in the jungle. And in the jungle, you can mess around, you can debate, you can be like, let's go. We were sent out to the jungle to do this stuff. But like, I feel like in space, you can't fuck around with this stuff. Don't go clamping on the stuff, because it's like you're in the middle of space. But look, your points are very well taken. I understand, if you're put in that situation, like they said, they were supposed to be home, but yet they were pulled on this emergency mission, which, look, if you're out there, suddenly you have to go to Neptune for a few months. I don't think anybody would be happy. So I understand that too. To me, it can go both ways, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing they did in the Demon Orgy, go both ways. I mean, my positives, negatives, and we already talked about, like, visually, really great positive, visually, the set design is awesome, all that stuff. I mean, I don't know. A lot of some negatives, definitely, I would say some of the acting, of course, is over the top, but like we talked about, like, this is late 90s movie. I'm not going to like bust its balls over some of the acting that much. To kind of counter some of Greg's things a little bit more, like, I kind of just went into this movie and I didn't overthink anything. I wasn't trying to think like, how did that work? Or why did they do this? Or why wouldn't an astronaut know that? I'm like, I don't fucking know it. I'm not a fucking astronaut. I don't know it. What the times where they were like, oh, explain it simpler, explain it in English. I'm like, yeah, guys, explain it in English. I don't know what's happening right now. So all those scenes that you're talking about, Greg, like, they didn't bother me at all. One, I'm just not smart enough to even understand what they're talking about to begin with, and 2, it's like, I don't really none of it ever like got to me like that, So like none of those are really that big of negatives to me. Like all the, like, you can call them loopholes or whatever you want to call it, plot holes, or how did this happen or why didn't they do this? But I just went in watching the movie for what it was, especially in a 1997 movie where they didn't give a shit about how things actually worked. They're just trying to make a movie. So I don't really have like that many negatives. I mean, this movie is built on the visuals. This movie's built on visuals. you know, and for that, like, it succeeds. Like, we talk about a lot of, like, you know,
Yeah.
a movie knowing what it is and knowing what it wants to do. And this movie definitely was like, okay, we want to make a fucked up Shining, but in space. Okay, check, you did it. You know, and we want to show gory, like, fucked up shit. Check, you did it. You know, and the acting is, you know, good enough to, like, be fine. You know, like I said, Sam Neill, once he leans into, like, insanity, I thought was fucking epic.
Yeah.
I thought Lawrence Fishburne is perfect as, like, the straight man, you know, just being, like, the straight guy that, like, doesn't bend, you know, was perfect. And I thought everybody else is just, like, secondary characters that give their own little personalities. I didn't really feel like at all anybody, even, like, the one-liners didn't even bother me that much. You know, the scenes you're talking about, Greg, where the guy's like, oh, watch out, baby bear. Like, to me, that seemed natural and real. Like, it didn't, you know what I mean? Like, so that's where it's like, it's hard for me to hear you kind of say those things, you know, not like it hurts me in my core or anything like that, you know, but, like, you know, it's just, like, odd. Cause I'm like, when I watched it, like, none of those scenes bother me. I never cringed once at, like, any line in this movie. I never thought any of them were, like, that over the top, especially for, like, late 90s. I thought it was fine. So I don't really have that many negatives. I mean, overall story wise, like, yeah, it could have been, like, you know, a little bit, you know, maybe longer or shorter, or maybe I did want more of a backstory or not, but I thought overall it was a pretty solid, like, you know what you want, you know what you're getting into, and it kind of delivered pretty well for what you want. Okay, so let's get to the end now. Laura's been waiting to talk about the end so she can talk about her big gripe about the fire guy or something. So Laura, what do you want to set up the end, Laura, and kind of talk about it? Go for it.
The entire ship is pretty much dead. The only people we've got left are obviously Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, but he's basically Satan himself in space. Stark obviously survives. She's off, passed out somewhere. And then there was someone else. Who was the other person that is still Oh, Cooper, right. We think Cooper's gone, but he comes back, and that's kind of funny. You know, I kind of disagree with what you've been saying, Greg. Like, I think that Cooper was meant there to be, he was there meant to be like the comic relief, and I totally bought into it because it was such a dark movie, so I was happy to have some of that. So anyway, that's the only people remaining. Sam Neill gets, he gets like blown off the ship.
He gets sucked out of the...
Sucked out.
Yeah, sucked out of it.
And up until this point, he's our big antagonist. But then now all of a sudden it's Captain Miller's turn to have like some vision. And this is one of the backstories that did get cut from the original footage. And that becomes like the big ending. The big climax is this man who we don't know who the fuck he is. And he is now on the ship on fire, chasing after Captain Miller. And as Greg put it in a text message, it became a Die Hard movie. And I'm like, who are you? Well, I don't care. Why is this the big ending? Why is this like the final fight? Why all of a sudden am I watching Die Hard? This doesn't feel like it fits with the movie at all. It was the weirdest ending. And then all of a sudden Sam Neill comes back. And now you're like, okay, who, like, you know, that was basically, you know, the majority of the ending. And I had such a huge problem with that. Why did they do that? Why couldn't they have just made it a big fight with actually like Sam Neill's character? Why was it like such physical fighting like Die Hard? Why wasn't it more like freaking Satan's on the ship? You think they could have done something a little bit more creative? I don't know. I was in pretty much this whole movie. And then at the end, I kind of just was like, oh no, they lost me. I'm out.
Can somebody explain to me why you guys keep referencing Die Hard? Like, what about this ending is Die Hard?
The fighting.
Yeah, like the one-on-one fighting. They're like punching, and you hear like Street Fighter punches.
Yeah, like boom, boom. Yeah, it was so cheesy.
I guess maybe we should have rewatched Mortal Kombat before to get get into the feel of it. But that, so I think it kind of has a purpose, but it's like a little too late for me. Like, so the whole purpose is, which is what I think they had an opportunity to, again, it's my personal thing, to create the scariest movie ever, right?
Yes.
With the idea of making the concept of hell a scientific thing that we've breached with our technology, right? And this idea that our guilt is the thing that haunts us the most at the end of our lives. And the one thing that's more terrifying, we talked about this in episode 1 of our freaking podcast, the one thing that's more terrifying than death is probably a tormented life, right? So you see three particular characters who are going through this thing where this hell realm is haunting them with their greatest guilts, their greatest fears. With Dr. Weir, it's the fact that like you said, he overworked himself, and it led to his wife feeling isolated and disconnected, and she committed suicide. For Peters, it was leaving her, I guess, disabled or sick kid behind, and so she sees him, and that's like her greatest fear, and that's what she's being tormented with. And I think where it kind of plays in at the end of the movies with Captain Miller, his thing is he was always riddled with the guilt of leaving behind his one of his crew members on a previous mission. He left him to die and burn, right? So that's haunted him his entire life. So now that's like the Hell Realm's way of trying to haunt Captain Miller. But the thing with Lawrence Fishburne's characters, like you said, Laura, it's kind of cool that everybody tried to acknowledge that it was happening to them, that they were, and some were able, most actually were not able to overcome it. They kind of succumbed to the hallucinations and they died from it. But Captain Miller actually, you remember he had that scene where he had his head like on the wall and he's like, this is not real, this is not real. He kind of like accepted the guilt, and he kind of, I think he was more able to process it and live with his decision. And I think it led to his ability to like fight the demon at the end, which was trying to haunt him with his memory. And he was like, no, I'm going to fight back against it. But the problem is like you said, it felt out of place because it seemed too little too late. You know, you had to spread this movie out amongst several different characters, and you don't have much time to learn everybody's deepest fear. You have like moments and flashbacks and little vignettes and like their memory that like it's meant to be effective. But to me, it wasn't. So this is where at the end it felt out of place. Like I didn't really feel too much his close tie to his old like war buddy that he left behind. Yeah. So it seemed like a pivot going from what is probably the scariest thing, which is Dr. Weir trying to like now take the whole crew across the black hole into hell, into eternal hell, and then it's like suddenly a one-on-one battle. That's where like the Die Hard thing kind of comes in, which I don't know if it's kind of an exaggeration. It's a silly exaggeration, but it kind of makes you feel that way at the end. It's like, whoa, it seems kind of out of place.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that I wish the ending would have gone down where, you know, maybe this did still happen to Captain Miller and we did see that, but it was intertwined through like the middle of the movie when everyone else's visions were haunting them and killing them. You know, maybe the guy was like running after him down corridors on fire and he's kind of talking about, oh, I'm seeing images of this guy. And like that happened then because it did just feel so out of place, and it made it a heavier part of the movie, but you're like, why? Why is there so much weight on Captain Miller and this guy? And we hardly know anything about him. And I completely agree. I think the fact that, you know, Dr. Weir is now bringing the ship to hell, that is horrifying. And that should have just been the focus of the ending was, okay, everyone's been haunted. Most people are dead. Whoever's remaining now has to fight him. He's the big baddie, not this like fire guy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I do agree with you guys that I wish there was like a little bit more of a backstory with him. Like you talked about Laura, that's some of the stuff that was probably cut from the extended version, you know? I mean, all they really have is like one scene where he's talking to Lucius Malfoy guy, and he has a little story and telling, you know, the tale of, you know, him leaving his you know, guy behind and this and that, and, you know, what was he supposed to do? And so there is like enough there to make you understand who this person is. But yeah, it would have been more, you would have felt it a little bit more if they actually had like some flashback of a scene.
Yeah.
Because visually you don't know what this person looks like, so it's kind of weird to be like, who is that guy?
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I don't know. I didn't feel like that bad at the end. Like I didn't think like it went like off the rails or it changed anything. I mean, I kind of get what you're saying, Laura, as far as, you know, like like the whole movie should have been just about going to hell and not like everybody's personal, you know, demons they were facing. But all in all, like what you kind of reveal at the end when he's fighting the fire guy, and then at one point, I think the fire guy just turns into Sam Neill. So really, it's all the same being. It's all just the ship. You know what I mean? There's not really like, they're not really seeing people. You know what I mean? It's all just like slightly in their head or whatever, manifestations, whatever you want to call it, you know? So as much as you're saying you don't really want the last fight to be, Lawrence Fishburne versus the fire guy, it really is in essence, Lawrence Fishburne versus the entity. It's just taking that form, so.
Yeah, I think maybe they spend too long on that form then. That's my problem. Like, they don't spend a whole lot of time on everything else. So it didn't make sense to me why that one felt like the heaviest and was saved for the very end. Well,
he's the captain. He's the captain, though. He's the captain. He's the last one. He sacrifices himself at the end so the other guys can survive. So it's just like they got to put a little bit more story into him because he's the main guy. He's the main one in this one, and it means more when he has to sacrifice himself rather than just some rando that you really didn't know that got filleted earlier in the movie.
Yeah, this is how you fix it, and this is one of my biggest gripes in this movie was that they talk too much. They try to explain too much about what was going on rather than show it. I agree. I like that scene of Captain Miller talking to Smith about the story. He said, I left him behind. And it was very sentimental. But you hear it coming from a confident character, but you don't really feel it. If you would have shown me maybe a scene, flashback to the actual scene where he left him behind, the airlock closes, his man catches on fire, and he has got tears in his eyes. I mean, that's like 15 seconds. It's something, and it makes me feel something. I don't need that connection to all the other characters because they're maybe minor, but at least for the captain, show me that, and then it kind of supports like this final scene.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all in agreement that we wish like they did have this, extended cut somewhere. Even if it meant you had to watch, another 3 minutes of the goth orgy scene, at least you would get the extended like Lawrence Fishburne, like his character.
Why is it a goth orgy? What?
It's because it's demonic. It's demonic,
Goth people are demonic.
Aren't they?
They're not hand in hand.
No, that's like it's a misnomer.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, if we have any goth listeners, I'm sorry if I, shouted you out like that. I maybe your guys' orgies are probably not as crazy as that. They're probably very tame. That's true, Laura. I don't want to lose any listeners. Yeah. Let's, to kind of set up more of the ending of this movie, like I said, their whole plan, this is something Sam Neill's character talked about in the very beginning of this movie was, there's explosives throughout this hull of the ship, which the ship itself was very weirdly constructed. It was like you have the very front, pilot's area and, where you're going to, drive the ship, and then a very long corridor with nothing. And then the back of the ship is kind of like the engine part. And then the whatever you call it, the death drive or whatever you want to call it. And so it was very weirdly constructed, but, Sam Neill mentioned at the beginning, there's like detonators all over the place in this long hall. And, he's like, what are those for? And he's like, those are there. If something ever goes wrong, the ship will, blow up in the middle. And then the front part can kind of just be like its own life raft. So at the end of this movie, that's their plan. Lawrence Fishburne and the other people alive are like, let's set the detonators. We can blow it off, and then the fucking back end can go to back to hell and have sex and do whatever it wants to do. And we can escape, So that's what's going on here. So he has a detonator. And I forget even why he's going to the back of the ship. I don't even remember why he's going to the back again. But he ends up, sacrificing himself, blowing up the middle part of the ship and, killing him and everything to let the other one survive. So it gets detached from itself. The back end of the ship gets sucked back into the, demon hole area. It disappears and then all that's left. It's another good, like, if I ever create a band in Demon Hole, that's a good band name. And then all that's left is you got, what are the names again? You got Stark is the one that lives. You got the one-liner guy. Cooper, and then I fucking forgot Justin fucking lives at the end.
What? Oh, I think you're right. There were
Baby
three
Bear.
of them.
Yeah, Baby Bear. They remember when they put him in
alive.
stasis.
I don't know if he's in great shape, but he's alive.
Still, I've completely forgot about him at the
That's
last third of
true.
this movie,
wow.
and then at the very end they reveal he's there. I was like, holy shit, I forgot about that
Did he
kid.
make it all
Yeah.
the way to the end?
Yeah, and so what happens at the very end of this movie is they have a thing saying it's been 72 days or something like that. And then another rescue ship finds the whatever it's called, life raft pod or whatever you want to call it. And so they come in and they're, taking them out of quarantine, take them out of the stasis. And, what's her name? Stark has like a flash of, being like, oh, it's Sam Neill's character. He's back, blah, blah, blah. But I guess it was just like a paranoia, and then it seems like it's okay. I don't know. That's what I want to talk to you guys about. Like all you see is like her freak out. And then, she's kind of like flashbacked into it, and then the doors like shut on the pod, and then it cuts to black. Like, did you guys take it as they're rescued and like we're all good now, or like they're not, they didn't get away or something like that? You know what I mean?
I took it as they were rescued. She's paranoid. They want people to be like, ooh, uh-oh, is there still something evil there? And I just thought it was a super cheap shot at the end.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. What about you, Gary? What was your like take at the end?
In reality, I thought that you're led to believe that everybody is safe, but yet she's the only one that continues to perceive the hallucinations. I think that's what they're trying to tell you. What they actually intended, I have no idea. But I guess I have to say I'm more along the lines of Laura's. Like, I just felt like I was being trolled a little bit. So I kind of lost a little bit of interest because I thought they were just trying to troll me. But yeah, what about you?
Crazy. No, I feel like I fucking love this movie. I don't know why I keep defending it so much.
Yeah,
but
you love it.
I know what the hell's going on here, I fucking love orgies, what's it called? Like I took the ending as like, no, they like, not they didn't get away, but like it's still like there. The presence is still there, like it wasn't, the entity engulfed like the ship itself, and even though they blew up that part of the ship, it's still on that part of the ship.
Why was nobody else affected? Why was it just her?
I don't think it was like nobody else was affected. I just think in that moment, in those like 10 seconds of a scene, like there was not time. They were not going to do any more time. I thought maybe it was like leading to like a sequel or something like that. But I mean, my only other thought was like fucking Justin, the guy who like went into the black hole. There's no way that kid wakes up and he's like, I'm fine, guys.
No.
I mean, he's definitely like possessed or something like that, or whatever you want to call it. So I think either way, like the shutting of the doors, it means like these fools are dead. Whether it's going to start all over again, I don't know. But that was the way I took it. I didn't take it as like, we're all good and clear now. We're about to get fucked up again.
I didn't even realize Justin made it, but now that you guys say that he did live and he got into the stasis chamber, your explanation totally makes sense. Like he brought it back with him.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say though that like this is set in the future. The ship has all these like cool things. You don't think doors just shut behind them? Because they do now in 2020. They've been shutting automatically for decades. Like why are doors shutting? Like, oh, that's the scary ending. This is the ending of the movie. It's like they're automatic doors. I don't understand why.
Yeah, maybe it's just a timer.
I guess I was an idiot who just assumed they were automatic doors. I don't know.
It seemed automatic to me too, yeah.
Yeah. Like, why is everyone like, oh, the doors?
I don't know. We might have to have people email in and see what they thought about this ending. If they're on Greg and Laura's side, where they think that we're all in the clear now, the sun's about to come up and we're all happy. Or
I definitely don't think. At least for sure, Stark is screwed. She looks like she was affected the most in that moment. Like
she looked like she was having a heart attack.
Yeah, and I was led to believe that she may live the rest of her life tormented by at least the apparition of Dr. Weir. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, we might be getting answers because I actually looked up something online, and I guess right now they announced last year that Amazon and Paramount Television, that they're working on an Event Horizon TV series.
Whoa.
And it's going to be helmed by Adam Wingard. So he's a really good showrunner. So they're going to be putting money into it and stuff like that. So I don't know where there's no more information than that. So you don't know when it's going to be taking place, but maybe it might be somewhat of a sequel. I don't know. Maybe you'll find out what happened at the end when they shut those doors. See if they were on a timer. Man, that might be how the thing starts, being like, hey, the timer ran out or something. I don't know. I have no idea. So let's get to our ratings then of this movie. So let's do 1 to 5 rating. Let's do how many eyes How many eyes are you giving this movie? You know, I could have done something way worse, Laura. I was trying to be PC. So let's see where Greg lines up on this.
I gotta say, like, you know me, I'm the one who, they call this a cult classic movie. I feel like I've been more aligned with cult classic movies, ones that kind of simmer better over time. And I really, really wanted to like this movie, but I really didn't, because a lot of the way that it was kind of executed. I think it comes down to the concepts of the movie. It was very terrifying if you think about it, but a lot of that that horrifying content was just tempered by some of the stuff that just didn't sit well with me. So I'm knocking it down a few. So I'm gonna do what's our rating unit?
How many eyes?
How many eyes?
How many eyeballs?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it two eyes. 2 eyes out of 5.
Okay, that's pretty reasonable. Maybe in the year 2047, after you've been watching this for a bit, you'll come to like it a bit more. You know, you just got to give it some more time. Yeah. What about you, Laura? How many eyes are you giving this movie?
This is so hard. I think I'm gonna be super annoying and give it like a
half an eye. Just
shit.
a eyelash, or just the pupil or something like that. The iris.
Here's the problem. The whole beginning, we're just talking about all the amazing parts of this movie. And then the last conversation we just had was talking about the ending, which clearly I didn't like. So I keep flopping between a 2.5 and a 3. I think yesterday I was leaning more towards 2.5. And then when we kind of got on today, I was like, you know what? There's too much good in this movie. I should give it a 3. Talking about the ending again, I'm like, damn. You know what though? I don't regret seeing it. I you know what? I'm gonna give it a 3. I'm gonna give it 3 eyes.
Nice. I'm glad you went to 3. You know, I was gonna have to try to argue with you and get you back to go back up there, but good job.
I'm clearly like conflicted about it, but the good is very good.
Maybe you have like 2 open eyes and the third eye is like a closed eye.
Yes.
Like it's borderline. It's a borderline.
The third eye's been like taken out
eye.
and just.
Yeah.
No.
That's true.
I like it. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Nice, Laura. Good job. Yeah. I think, like we said, I mean, you can clearly tell from this pod, like I love this movie. Apparently,
yeah.
We keep arguing and yelling at Greg for things. But I think, you know, yeah, like I enjoyed this movie. I took it for what it was. I didn't like try to overthink a lot of this movie. I kind of just watched it, you know, going through it, like knowing what I was going to see visually. And so, you know, as much as I wouldn't say I enjoyed the gruesomeness in this movie, it doesn't really have the full effect as I feel like it should to somebody seeing this for the first time. So I think for me, rating wise, I'm probably going to be right there with Laura. I'm going to say 3 too. I can't go more than 3. It's not like a great movie. To me, 4 and 5s are like great movies. 5 is like, you know, stellar. You know what I mean? But like a 4 is like a really good movie. So I don't think it's like a really good movie, but I think it's entertaining. It knows what it wants to be. And I think it executes very well, you know, for the things it wants to get across. I do agree with you that the ending isn't like super great. It doesn't like stick the landing solid, but it's a good ending for what I would expect from a 90s movie. You know what I mean?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
you know, it is what it is. It's not like great, but whatever. So I'm not going to take away points or give it points either way. It's just kind of standard. Yeah, but I would say 3, you know, and it's so interesting that, you know, I feel like we're usually in the opposite things where like me and Laura like don't like cult classics, you know, and Greg loves them, and now we're opposite. So it's really interesting that this one just didn't land.
Yeah. It's definitely a really interesting like experiment going through this movie with you guys. Super cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that's it for this week's episode. Next week we begin our official, you know, month-long Halloween marathon we're gonna do, which is super cool.
Yay.
We're calling it Conjecturing, which I know Laura was not on board with, but I think me and Greg laughed too much to not make it a real thing. So we'll be watching all the 5 movies, the Halloween movies. Laura's pretty much picking them all for us, which is going to be super cool. So Laura, do you want to reveal the first one we're going to watch next week?
Yes, we are going with the OG, the very first Halloween, 1978. One of my favorites.
Nice.
I mean, I'm excited to watch this. I think we've been talking, you know, about this for a couple of weeks now. And surprisingly, I'm starting to figure out more of like, I don't think I've seen like any of these movies.
That's hilarious.
I'm pretty sure I've seen the original, but I'm not 100% sure. It might be one of those things where just like it's something I've heard about forever, the original Halloween movie, and I've seen snippets and online, and so like maybe I think I've seen it, but I don't know, to be honest with you. If I have, it's been a long time. So I'm super excited for this whole month because I'm going to possibly watch all these movies I've never seen before that people are probably going to be angry I haven't seen, but I can't do anything about that now. So what about you, Greg? Have you seen mostly all these Halloween movies, or you're like me?
Yeah. Full disclosure, I'm in your boat, Rob. I've seen Halloween H2O, and that's it. I haven't even seen the OG. It's one of those movies to me where like it's on someone's TV at a friend's house and you catch snippets, but I never went out of my way to watch it back in the day. So I am super pumped for this too.
Yeah, so this will be super fun, super exciting. It's the first time we're doing anything like this where we're watching linear movies kind of from beginning to end, and which is going to be super cool to do because I know like when there's certain movies we watch, like when we watched the original Scream, that I wanted to just kind of keep going and watch 2 and 3 and 4, but we had to like jump into other movies, we had different picks, stuff like that. So this isn't the first time we're actually watching congruent movies in a row, which is going to be really cool. So yeah, if you like any of the Halloween movies, which if you're listening to this podcast, you probably do, get ready for a full month of them and us like breaking them down and probably sounding stupid. I know I'm going to sound stupid through a lot of them because I don't know what's going on. I'm really going to be leaning on Laura a lot to help me understand a lot of this stuff. Hopefully it won't be like this movie where, NASA should have been involved or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, if anybody wants to email us in, we can kind of like get back into getting recommendations for movies maybe after October. You can hit us up conjecturingpod@gmail.com or Twitter or Instagram @conjecturingpod. Also remember, subscribe, rate, review, wherever you're getting, listening to us on your podcast platform. And, now that we're on a network now, please go check out, the network site, Slash and Cast, the podcast network. You can check them out, slashandcast.net. See all the other shows they have available there. Like I said, go check out that Monster Erotica one. That sounds super cool. Let us know how that goes. So this has been the Conjecturing. I've been Rob.
And Laura.
And Greg.
Yeah, until next time, remember, horror is subjective, so conjecture away. See ya.
Bye.
See you guys. Do I not know what an orgy is?